Hi, in this video I want to go over my experience I've had so far with Copilot Agent Mode, Bring Your Own Key, and I'll contrast that with raw code. What initially got me the idea to compare and contrast them or to try to replicate some of what I was seeing in Copilot Agent Mode was this video BYOK posted. It was posted 9th of April, about a month ago now. And in it, he takes an Astro repo with Tailwind and he gives it one prompt, and then it builds out this URLList application, which is used to manage URL list. So you can add, delete, share an URL list. That's the idea of it. But the thing is that he used was this project requirements document, which then got me the idea that I could use that too, and I could try to replicate what he was seeing, because his his Copilot agent, he ran for about 30 minutes, and my previous experience so far, which they're still true up to this date, but they have always been that it exits prematurely, Copilot, and then you have to keep prompting it again. You have to say, oh, please finish the rest or continue or do this and do that. But his seemed to run for a long time before it would conclude its result. I see, you could see him on the keyboard, and he was maybe also typing some continuous statements here and there. It's not easy to tell on the video, but even the fact that it ran for so long, I've never been able. So I tried to replicate this. So here's the repository that it came up with. Here's the prompt. This is exactly his prompt. It's also the same model that he used. And here are the requirements. The difference is that I started from an empty repo versus he started with Astro. I think that, my idea was that just to get it run for longer, I don't think it would have mattered if I would have started with a more fleshed out repository. But we're installing Vite, and then here I have to click. At least he asks for it. That's already better than me having to type it out. But then here's the first time, continue iterating. It's also asking if he wants to continue working on the features, which I don't know why I need to say this. But then he builds out a few of them. And then I have to tell him again, let me continue. And then he stops. And this I find really weird, and I would like to hear what your experiences have been with it, because he's already, I don't know what's up with this. He says he continues, and then if I don't say continue, he doesn't continue. Well, and then he builds the rest. This is what comes out of it. It's basically one app.tsx file where all the components in it with all the requirements are defined. And here is the project. Oh, that's wrong. Here is the actual application that it built. It works. It's pretty basic. It has a horrible UX. It's so bad that I always need to. So, no, you need a URL first, right? So I think it works like this. Oh no, you need to generate the URL first, and then you can publish it. And then you can save it. It's it's probably one of the worst user experiences I've seen in a long time, but it works. It's not bad that I guess that it only did exactly what I asked it to do, because the most annoying thing is if it does some things on the side that you didn't ask it to. But for example, BYOK said that his one added a feature that would extract metadata. But my prompt, you can see this is pretty short. I think this finished in like maybe 2 or 3 minutes. I don't think this took much longer than that. So then I tried this, and I was like, okay, well, I guess agent mode just doesn't work for me. This is not terribly useful. This is not useless, of course, but this is not like I wouldn't get too excited about and call that this has changed everything. So then fast forward a bit. Today I was working on a VS Code extension, and in that VS Code extension, I wanted to call this on the change method. So that's the Git extension provided by VS Code. That's the official VS Code repo here. Here, VS Code, that's the VS Code repo. And I wanted to call this event on it. I wanted to subscribe to this event, but it's not clear when this gets called. Actually, there's no documentation on it, and you can guess based on what else is here. Maybe if this changes, this would get called, but I just want to make sure, because then this might have implications from what you do in that listener or don't do. So I gave it this prompt. I want to know the details about this function. When is it triggered exactly? Show me the implementation. That would be pretty clear to a human developer. If I would give this, I don't know, to someone, I mean, I'll never, never do this, but if I were to do this, this would make sense. Like, you would come up like, where's the fire? Where's the code that calls fire on that event emitter, and what led up to it, under what conditions does it actually get fired? This is what you obviously want to know here, but this is clear. So that you understand how this repo actually works, and I like this because it's a simple example. This is really easy to understand. So we have this repository state. This is where we just were on the change event. That's an interface that's defined in the type definitions of the Git extension. This is implemented by this file, api1.ts. That's in the API class API repository state. It has the same field on the change event. And this actually links one-on-one to ondit run git status in the class repository.ts. It's pretty simple. And then the question is, of course, where's the code that calls a the fire method on this event. So it goes on to the first prompt. In the end, it says to find the implementation, you would need to locate the class or module that implements repository state. And then it shows, so this is like nothing. I mean, of course I know that. But so the only relevant piece of information is this here. We want to call this on the change. We want to do a search on the repository. Okay, fine. I say, please look for it. And this is again this pattern of having to nudge it to go to work actually. And then here, this is nothing. This is the exact same text form. It didn't do a search. And I say, go ahead just one more time. And then it actually did do the search. Here it did the search, and you can see it found some results. And it actually did find the API repository state. And it did understand that these are linked here. This is the on. Can I not scroll this? I don't know. But you can see here on. So here's the ondit run git status event on the repository. So that's correct. But it didn't actually tell me when does it get fired, which is like the next step, I guess. So then I looked, and I was a bit annoyed. Then I looked at the code myself, and then I found out it does get called in update model state. I will show this just quickly, because then it repository, where are we going? Update model state. So here at the end we have this fire here. So and then I ask him, under what circumstances is it fired? Meaning, obviously, you look through the call hierarchy, like all of it, and tell me like where's the starting point for this call, for that call sequence that leads up until this point where this actually gets fired. So what he basically does is he does do this to some extent. So here, this is these are when the configuration changes, and the other things that he pulls out is essentially the call hierarchy, which is here, and these are events these are commands that you can call through the command center, and they will trigger an update state. What he doesn't tell me is that actually this will only get updated for commands that do some write operations. He doesn't tell me this here, but okay, this is not bad. I'm not sure how much time would be saved here by asking Copilot, but okay. The next question I had, so up until this point now, I think we're done now with the initial question. This is, I guess it goes as it gets. I mean, I could prompt into more details, but that was, I think, 4 prompts about to get to this, what I would have expected to happen in 1 prompt. So then the next question I had, so because these things are all only internal to VS Code, what happens when I change it on a terminal outside of VS Code? How does it get notified? Because he never answered the question. And then he tells me, okay, there's a file system watcher, that's correct, and it detects commands to it, and it watches the .git folder, like the head file and stuff, and that's also correct. And it will trigger an update, and then this will trickle down to the update model state. This is all correct and fine, perfect. And I ask, find the code, and then it goes off the rails. It tells me about something about sync, which are internal VS Code commands, and I tell him that, and then he's like, oh, oops, you're correct. Let me look up the code. And then he goes to this model.ts file, which is not, this is not relevant. This is something else. I don't know what that is. But he also starts to hallucinate a bit. Then these on-fs change, I just checked a bit of it. This doesn't exist, and I think some of the code here, it doesn't exist. That's just a hallucination, which is a bit disappointing. But it sort of got the job done. So now let's look at how Row did. Row. So exact same prompt. And same model, Gemini 2.5 Pro. I don't know if I said that before. So it will go down and it will print out a bit. Interesting here is that the search is different, but it shows that here it search repository state on the change, and here we search for fire, and only specifically in the Git source directory, which wouldn't lead to many hits. Here you can also see that this resulted in, I don't know, 70 something. Where did they actually search here? 56 results. And this is just much fewer because it's a much narrower search and makes more sense. But ultimately, I mean, they both got there eventually. And then it wants to read some more files and some more files. And so here's the summary of it. It's correct. I'll pull up this again. We have the on the change repository state. It's implemented here. It's on the change is linked through the on did run git status event with the repository class. It's also correct. And it's fired in the update model state method, which is perfect. I mean, this is, I'm not sure if I need all this stuff. I mean, I read through it and it's correct. It's just way too verbose. It's a simple question, simple answer would have been fine, but okay, we got there. Who's calling, and then that's the second part of the question. Who's calling it outside the terminal? I think I've phrased it exactly the same. I'm not entirely sure, but let's compare it. Now this was a bit, who is calling run or update model state if repo changes outside of VS Code, e.g. in the terminal? Who's calling run or up? So that's the exact prompt, same prompt, yeah. So, okay, that's a great question. And then he goes through it. And his explanation, this is actually correct what he says. So there's a file system watcher, which I haven't shown, but I'm not going to. It's not super relevant now. But eventually there's this call chain that starts with this file system watcher being triggered, which watches these files here, which is also correct. And this will lead then to a call chain, which will go from this method to eventually this method, and then to this method, which is all perfectly fine and exactly what I needed. Yeah, so that has been my experience so far with VS Code agent mode and also with Row. So let me know what your experience has been, because I'm trying to push AI code agents to team members, and they're not, this experience on the left, it's not bad, but it's hard to sell this to them.